Welcome students. We will continue learning about chapter Nutrition in Plants. Yes students, as we have earlier talked about photosynthesis. So tell me, only green color leaves make their own food? I have come across leaves and I have come across plants which are not really green, and I'm pretty sure you have too. And there is this common confusion, right students? So if the green pigment chlorophyll that we have talked about is not there, then how is the plant able to make its own food? So my dear students, the answer is that because if chlorophyll is not there, it's not able to capture the sunlight, and then photosynthesis can't happen. So for now, the trick here is plants can have another color, but they always have a certain amount of chlorophyll in them. Basically means they might not be green students. It is not necessary. So basically they might not be green in color. They might be other in color, but they always have a certain amount of chlorophyll. So if you see any other color leaf, then this means that that leaf contains chlorophyll in them. But the other pigment, for example, we can say the red pigment, yellow pigment, or the orange pigment that they have is little bit more stronger than chlorophyll. That means the red, yellow, orange color is more stronger in the leaves than chlorophyll. So this is the reason, my dear students, that they do not have the color green, but every other color, but that doesn't mean that they don't have chlorophyll. So the next thing that we move on is, what is the importance of nitrogen? Why it is important? So why nitrogen is important, students? As you know, nitrogen is a gas and is present all around us all the time. But students, see, plants in itself cannot use nitrogen to make proteins. They can use water, carbon dioxide to make carbohydrates or starch. But they need to use nitrogen to make fats and proteins. I know students, it is little bit complicated, but it is very easy if you read it from the slide. Here students, there are only two things you have to remember. Those are, firstly, nitrogen is very important. Why it is important? Because it helps the plants to produce protein and fats. It helps the plant to produce protein and fats. Secondly, there is a specific kind of bacteria in the roots of the plant which help to convert the nitrogen in the air and gives it to the plant. So these are the two important things that need to be remembered. So this is important to make protein and is absorbed from the air by the bacteria which is in the roots. Okay, my dear students, but it is not directly or not from stomata we can take. It is only for carbon dioxide. So students, till now we have known about autotrophic nutrition and heterotropic nutrition. Now let's talk about some other mode of nutrition. So from this you can see what is autotrophic nutrition and what is heterotropic nutrition. The example that you will find in your book is cuscuta. It is basically a parasite. It is parasitic plant. So students, the example of parasitic nutrition is cuscuta. It does not have the green pigment, which is so important to make food. Like I have told you, if chlorophyll is not there, plants would not able to capture sunlight. Of course, this is, you everyone know, they will not able to make their own food if there is no chlorophyll. So now students, another mode of nutrition is insectivorous nutrition. I'll tell you, when I come across them, like when I was a kid, I was like, oh, they are non-vegetarian. Well, something like that, right? These plants are basically the kind of plant who rely on eating some tiny insects from here and there for their nutritional needs. They don't prepare their own food, students. They don't prepare. They eat small, tiny little insects. One example I can give you, known as basically of this plant, something that is of course there in your book already. The leaf of the plant is modified, right? The leaf of the plant is modified. You know, one leaf acts like a bell. Here, one leaf acts like a bell, basically bell-like shape, and one acts like a lid of the bell jar. Basically, helps to capture the insect inside the bell jar. And then what exactly happens, students? Then the digestive juices comes to play. Plants excrete digestive juices which helps to kill the plant and then digest the insect. Now let's try to understand what exactly mode of nutrition is, like fungus, mold, bacteria has. So they have some kind of nutrition, some mode of nutrition. So let's try to understand what mode of nutrition does they have. So as you see from the picture, so what does these three things in common? Can anybody guess what is the common thing in these three pictures? Yes, so the common thing is that the mode of nutrition that they share is the common in them. The mode of nutrition is similar, is called saprotropic nutrition. So that is saprotropic nutrition. In this mode of nutrition, students, organisms basically drive nutrients. What does organism do? The organisms basically drive nutrients out of dead and decaying organism. From where they basically drive nutrients? They drive nutrients from dead and decaying organisms. Let's try to understand the other concept. You should ideally know about it. Symbiosis. Yes, symbiosis is basically a mutually beneficial relationship between two organisms, as the picture depicts. Now students, I'll give you some example. Or I would say, imagine two organisms. I know it is funny. There are two pens and I'm saying imagine two organisms. So that is why I'm saying imagine. So imagine these are the two organisms. Let's say A and B. Fine. Now if organism A gets some beneficial from organism B and organism B gets some beneficial from organism A, right? So that is, they are mutually beneficial. If they both are getting some beneficial from each other, that means they are mutually beneficial. Basically, we can say that it is a give and take relationship. I give something to you and you give something back to me. A very good and classic example of this is lichens. As the example of this is lichens, as you can see here, lichens has two parts, algae and fungus. algae which contains chlorophyll, students, and fungus which give water, minerals, nutrients to the algae to make the food. Now let's understand about recovery of nutrients in plants. So yes, students, tell me, what is the process of recovery of nutrients in the plants? I think from the picture it is little bit clear that what is the process of recovery in the plants. So as we are cultivating all the time on the ground, and the soil after a time will start losing its nutrients, right? Obviously the soil will lose its nutrients if we will cultivate all the time. So what are the some ways where nutrients are actually replenished into the plants? So dear students, there are two basic ways of doing that. So what are those two basic ways? Firstly, fertilizers and manures give nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, etc. So we should give fertilizers and manure to the soil. And secondly, there is a bacteria known as rhizobium that also help to convert nitrogen from air for plants use. So these are the two main basic ways of doing recovery of nutrients in the plants. I hope this chapter is now clear to everyone. But still, if there is any kind of doubt, you can ask in the comment section and I will answer all the doubts.
Other modes of nutrition in plants. As we know, most of the plants perform photosynthesis and synthesize their food. Some of them exhibit heterotrophic mode of nutrition by depending on plants which synthesize food. Such plants which obtain nourishment from other plants are called as parasites. Parasitism is an example for heterotrophic mode of nutrition. In this relationship, the plant which supplies nutrition is called as host, and the plant which obtains nutrition from the other is called as parasite. Example, cuscuta.
Cuscuta is a parasitic plant which climbs over the host plant to obtain its nourishment. As cuscuta is devoid of chlorophyll, parasitic plants develop special roots called hostoria, which penetrates into the host stem and absorbs instant nourishment from the host.
Plants that grow on dead and decaying matter. Some organisms depend on dead and decaying matter for their nourishment. This mode of nutrition is called as saprotrophic nutrition. The organisms which exhibit such type of nutrition are called as saprotrophs. Example, fungi. Fungi grow from small structures called as spores. The body is made up of tubular structures called as hyphae. The network formed by hyphae secrete digestive juices on dead and decaying matter and convert it into soluble form. This soluble form is absorbed easily to obtain nourishment. Children, have you ever seen moles growing on bread slices? These are fungi. Fungi also grow on pickles, clothes, leather goods, etc. Fungal spores are very active during rainy season. They germinate easily in moist climate and grow rapidly on things. Special mode of obtaining nutrition in insectivorous plants. Children, do you know some plants eating animals? Let us see what are they. Some plants like nepenthes,
Atricularia, Drosera, and Venus flytrap plants are examples of insectivorous plants. These are also called as carnivorous plants. They can trap and eat insects completely to obtain their nourishment.
which can trap and eat insects completely to obtain their nourishment. An example for heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Nepenthes has some leaves which are modified into pitcher-shaped structures. The apex of leaf forms the lid, which is flexible to open and close the pitcher. Mouth of the lid is sticky with some hairy outgrowths. The sticky secretion shines to attract the insects. As the insect comes and sits on this secretion, it gets entangled by hairy structures and immediately lid of the pitcher gets closed. The inner lining of the pitcher secretes a lot of digestive juices to digest the insect. In this way, insectivorous plants obtain their nourishment. Symbiosis. This is a phenomenon in which two organisms live together to share shelter and to obtain nutrients. The organisms which participate in this relationship are called as symbionts. Some bacteria like Rhizobium live in root nodules of leguminous plants. Rhizobium obtains minerals and shelter from the plant, in turn fixes atmospheric nitrogen to the plant. Lichens are the organisms in which algae and fungus live together to share the necessary factors. Fungus provides shelter, water, and minerals to algae.
Alga, in return, synthesizes the food by the process of photosynthesis and provides food to fungi.
Thank you so much for listening, my lovely students.